we all miss a very special person. And then President Herzog said exactly the same thing, that we miss a lot. Mr. Sheldon Adelson, of course. My boss, by the way. Yeah. Luckily. Yet, those people, I mean, you can't miss them because they're always here. Why? Because they have a legacy. And this is tremendous. And we're very lucky. And I want to say one thing. I'm sure that he was looking at us with a huge smile up from the sky because I was a bit late. We have to tell you we was a bit late because both of us are with makeup. We don't really look like this. So we came a bit late. And I was watching all of you singing the national hymn, the American one, of course, and then the Israeli one. And the Israeli one, you did it with such passion and devotion. And my question to you is how do we make sure that the grandkids of all those people here sitting here will sing the national, Atikva national hymn, the Israeli one, with the same passion, with the same devotion?
Well, first of all, allow me to honor Dr. Miriam and Sheldon Adelson. I had the honor, as mayor of Jerusalem, giving them the special award of being honorary citizens of Yerushalayim. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Miriam, for your dedication to the Jewish people and Jerusalem. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that Israel will flourish in the future. Israel went through major challenges and wars. And we know, and we knew, and we will always know how to overcome our enemies. There's no doubt in my mind. We have the best IDF in the world. We have great partnerships here in America. And I think that the IAC is a classic example of how Israel and the United States work together. And I want to thank all of you for your strong support of Israel and the relationship, the bonding between Israel and the United States. So there's no doubt in my mind. I'm very optimistic as to our future. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. You came here from a short flight, I think. You came from D.C.
Yes, I
Not
was in
like
Washington.
us, all the Israelis. You came from Miami. You're all very tired. You were fresh. And you came there, and I saw your tweets. You met a few Republicans in the Congress, and I guess you spoke about Iran. But the question is, you're in the opposition. They're in the opposition. So what did you really do? How did you advance?
I think when we talk about the threat from Iran, we're all one people. Opposition, coalition in Israel. And what I also saw is both the Republicans and Democrats really understand how we must work together. I shared with my friends the fact that Iran is a radical Islam regime. They want to create a bomb in order to use it. That's their goal. They teach their children to commit suicide and to wipe out Israel. There's nothing to talk about with somebody that wants to throw you to the sea. You must stop them and must never let them have a bomb.
Right.
One more thing, with your permission. Side by side to the threat of a nuclear bomb, we should also be very aware of the conventional challenge that Iran wants to strike Israel. There's about 250,000 rockets around us. In Lebanon, in Syria, in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, unfortunately, we have some challenges. Long-term missiles from abroad, and lately also Arab Israelis. So we must change the equation with Iran. We must say to the Iranian regime that any rocket that is fired on Israel from any of the proxies around us, the target is going to be Tehran. And we should prepare, yes, indeed. We should be very well prepared, not for the third Lebanese war, but for the first war with Iran. And the only way to prevent a war is to seriously prepare for it. And the Iranians must understand that we're going to hit them extremely hard. I want them to fear before they push the button and hit Israel, either with nukes or with the missiles around us.
Mr. Barkat, allow me to think of Sunday's newspaper, and I think you gave me an headline. You're a member of opposition, and you trust the Israeli actual government when it comes to Iran. That's what I understood.
I'm saying that we have to work together on this issue. When the bombs fall, it's going to fall both on the opposition and coalition, and we have to work together. Also with the Democrats and the Republicans here. Good. This is one major threat that we have to neutralize as fast as possible.
Good. Who said we're divided? Very good. Anyway, I think that also, I mean, you came back from Washington and you deal a lot against, I mean, the possibility of opening a Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem. And let me remind the public that never, ever, since the creation of Israel, never was there opened any diplomatic consulate or embassy, foreign, of course, in Jerusalem. How will you do that?
Boaz, as mayor of Jerusalem, we have to do everything to make sure Jerusalem will never be divided. And it has to be a united city. 3,000 years ago, when our ancestors came to the land of Israel after hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt, each tribe had a piece of land except the city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem belonged to all tribes, to all Jews. And it had a function, a very important function, as a united piece for all people all over the world. So Jerusalem, we all know, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, from Zion, new Torah comes out. We all know, Yerushalayim osa kol Israel chaverim, that Jerusalem makes all people friends. It's because of the uniqueness of the unity of the city. Now, trying to open a Palestinian consulate in the city of Jerusalem is de facto dividing the city. And that is why we will never allow it.
Nice. You mentioned Jerusalem, and you mentioned being the mayor of Jerusalem, of course. And in Jerusalem, there is a very peaceful place, a very quiet place when you want to relax. Buddhism, for example, it's called the Knesset. It's very relaxed. The Israeli parliament, very relaxed. You go there for relax. And my question is, in that Knesset, I mean, you belong to that party of Likud, I think 30 members of the Knesset.
Yes.
And I think that you have a leader, maybe you heard the name called Netanyahu, I think. There is such a leader. And my question is, I mean, this party, because we have to speak also about politics in Israel, what's going to happen in the coming months in this Knesset? Are we going to relax a little bit, or are we going to continue to quarrel all the time?
Well, you know, I decided to leave my business 20 years ago and focus on public service because I understand that my role is to make a better Israel. Right now, when we're in opposition, I use the time to plan. I have a vision for my country. I look through the binoculars 30 years ahead and see how I would like to see Israel. And I'm using my experience as mayor of Jerusalem, as an entrepreneur. Today, I call myself a public entrepreneur, and provide new ideas, new thoughts that are coming from the right of center. I know there's no doubt in my mind that we could, when we come back to power, we will thrive and move Israel much, much faster, because right now the government, with all due respect to Nachman Shai, which is a dear friend of mine, I think the challenge we have right now is that there's no clear vision where this government is taking us. There are some people on the left, some people on the right. The Arabs have a totally different pictures in the government. We need a coherent picture of how to dramatically improve our the Galil, the Golan, Negev, Arava, Judea and Samaria. How do we dramatically improve many, many systems? From my experience, it's possible. So I'm using the time that we're in opposition to better plan. And I honestly believe that we have to replace this government as soon as possible. And that's what I will do.
You mentioned Minister Nachman Shai, our good friend, and in fact Nachman Shai spoke about the government meeting, and that they're very, very short meetings. And I was wondering, sitting and listening to you, is it a good sign or a bad sign, by the way? But that's another thing. Anyway, but to ask another question, I think you've got also, because we asked Ambassador Erdan about ambition to be prime minister, and he said, I cannot answer, I'm a diplomat. You're a politician. What about your ambitions?
Thank you for asking.
You will answer me, of course, that you've got some good polls, I think. And my answer will be, too many mandates. In order to be prime minister in Israel, you don't need so many mandates. But continue, please.
I'll give you a shorter answer.
Please.
I'm part of the Likud. And in the Likud, we have our bylaws. We're a democratic party in a democratic country. We're honored and proud. And so, from my perspective, the day that Netanyahu will decide to move on, then immediately we open up primaries in the Likud. I will participate and win.
So, time is short, and again, we're looking for titles, and people are very curious, and you're very, how would I say, you're very self-confident, which is a good thing for a politician. So I can afford to ask you a question that is a bit, I wouldn't say tricky, but I think that at home they won't like it very much. But your leader right now of your party, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister for so many years, ever since, I think, Bismarck's time, 1870, I think, or something. My question is it for you right now an asset or a burden? And please answer a very clear question, a clear answer.
Well, thank God. I mentioned earlier that we are a democratic party.
Yeah.
And so the people to define assets or not assets are Likudniks. And the people of Israel, they will decide, and they decide every elections, and they've spoken out last time, and whatever they'll speak out next time, we'll accept.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very clear. Toda rabba.
Thank you very much. Toda rabba.